sure.
You're a disciplinary right now here, right?
Okay, part of my job, yes.
Right, that's your job.
Yes.
So, if you were to get the goal and become principal,
Okay.
do you think you would still make as much of an effort to have, not necessarily a very personal relationship with each and every student, but do you think you would still check up with the students that you knew needed more guidance than others?
I would like to, and just seeing a couple of these ROTC guys, being involved in their program and attending some of their events that they put on, you establish those relationships. I would like to say that as much as possible, my role as disciplinarian is only a small piece of my current job right now. I really try and interact with student council on a weekly basis, students that just come in that are having issues of some kind. Those relationship building pieces, aren't a result of discipline, but just common interaction. I would really like to attend all the sporting events and talking to students about how they did in their game. Today there's a softball game, and follow up with students with that, or their plays that they put on, or the choir concerts. To me, it's the whole reason why we're here is for the students and to establish relationships with them. And unfortunately, helping students along in some of the discipline process and learning from mistakes. Plenty of people would know that I've made some mistakes in school and whatnot, and so that's part of the growing up process, and helping students along in that is a huge part of the head principal position as well as the other administrative positions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How do you feel about ID badges? Do you believe that we should wear them 24/7?
That's a great question. There's really two big sides of it, and schools across the country handle it in so many different ways. From some schools, from a security point of view, if you want to go the full-on hardcore use of badges, when you walk in the door, you walk through a security gate with your ID badge. I hate to say it, I'd never like to see schools become like that. Unfortunately, some of the past events have created maybe the need for some of that. So from a school safety standpoint, I really like being able to see, especially in a school this size, and getting back to your question, I would love to be able to know every single student by face and name, and we get to know most of them, but still being able to say, well, that person has their ID, and they belong here. As we go into the closed campus, that issue of having your ID badge actually is going to become even more crucial for the student to have. And right now the students, I think, I don't know if students can attest to this, but they are pretty resistant to the idea of having to wear an ID badge, and I personally don't like it either. It's less personal. If you don't know me by sight, then but from a school safety perspective, it's a pretty valuable piece. One of the things that I would like to see, though, and we're already seeing it now, is students are having to use those ID badges anyways for a lot of functional type things. Tomorrow we're doing our by college dual credit testing, and they have to be able to show the person proctoring the test that that's who they are. Because there are so many of those things that happen on campus, it just becomes, the need is there that they just have to have in their possession for sure. During Ames testing, we have to have their ID badges. When they go to the lunchroom, in a perfect world, they have to show their ID badges. And then when they're substitute teachers, we had probably 8 substitute teachers here today, and they don't see all those students. And so being able to see the student with their ID badge is so much more comforting to them to be able to match the name with the face. Yeah, that's a tough one. I know the students don't really like it a whole lot. And if you really look at it from it's not that big of a deal. But it's really challenging to enforce as a rule right now. So
So will you be enforcing like more security because of like Newtown and all the other gun?
You know, I think that, you know, this was a question that was brought up earlier. I'm really proud to say that our systems that we have in place work very well. This very same day that that took place in Connecticut, we had a very real situation on this campus, and I was absolutely amazed at how quickly the teachers did what they were supposed to do. The security guards, the SRO, and the leadership of the school all went into place. All the things that we've trained for all worked very well with very little. You know, we can always get better at things, and every time we do, we have a security meeting with the principal, and we say, okay, what can we do better? And I think, you know, for being as open and as big a school as we are, when things happen, I think we're pretty secure. We had our SRO here on campus. He's an armed officer. And within, I think, probably 6 minutes of us calling the police, they were here. We had 2 armed police officers here. Gates were shut down. No one was coming in or out. And then I would say maybe in 10 minutes, we probably had 10 to 15 armed police officers here. And if you ask some of the students, they probably didn't even know all that was taking place because we were in a modified lockdown. For us on the outside, it was extremely serious. Whew, yeah, that's a pretty emotional day for me. But in the classroom, it was business as usual. Students were safe and protected, and the system worked. So, but it's a very horrible thing that we have to deal with now, you know, going all the way back to Columbine. Unfortunately, I don't think you can prevent all of that. I mean, it's just been proven. You know, even military bases with ID badges and security gates have had some active shooters on their own. You know, it's like the safest place in the world, if you ask me. It's a military base, but so that's probably more than you bargained for in that question. So, yes.
Mr. Peters, we've heard from all three candidates mention how important this transition to Common Core is. And 2 of the candidates have now said that it's going to impact the students in the classroom and how rigorous and demanding and, you know, hear this. How is that going to affect, if you get the job, how would you prioritize, how do we transition our school student kind of culture from one where we embrace this? Or is it going to be, in your opinion, a challenge? And how you know, it's hard for me to get at, but where do you see that as a priority? And name maybe one thing that you could do to tackle that.
Okay.
So I know it's a convoluted issue, but.
Well, just backing up a little bit with your question, one thing that I actually like about Common Core and the change that is happening curriculum-wise and new standards is that it really is from the ground up. And so there's, you know, move on when ready in the 3rd grade level. That's going to help us, you know, as we transition into Common Core. And this, I'm already seeing it with my own daughters. They're doing a lot of that at the elementary school and the middle school right now. So when they do come to us, some of those Common Core curriculum and teaching methods are already in place, which is going to help us tremendously at the high school. So it's not so much, you know, high school standards with the Ames testing. Now there are also some pretty big hammers, I guess you can say, at the elementary level that maybe have never been in place before when we've had these, you know, changes that have come on. What I also like about the Common Core is that it's making the school, and one of my goals at Prescott High School is to keep us, or move us less from being departmentalized to be more on the same team and working together, and Common Core is going to require that we do that. And some of the teaching techniques that have been in existence for so many years, they're having to change, you know, and that's kind of running along with our evaluation system, which is going to help too. So there's a lot of pieces in place that have not been in place before to make Common Core more successful.
Do you see it as a difficult transition, or one that you see you'll help everyone embrace?
You know, I think for, you know, obviously for teachers that have not been in the trenches for so long, I think it's going to be easier for them because Common Core is, oh, this is what we do. But there's some teachers out on the wall out there in the Hall of Fame, you know, the Circle of Excellence out there in the hallway, that they would have a very difficult time teaching under the Common Core right now. It's going to be a big change for a lot of teachers that have been in the business for a long time to have to change and move towards those new teaching methods. And I think because the evaluation system is requiring it, it's not a question of whether I'm going to or not. You're going to have to. And I think overall it's good. It's going to make our students see education not so much departmentalized. You know, okay, I'm doing math right now and I do history right now. It's going to blend a lot of the subject areas together, and I think it's overall going to be a good thing. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge transitioning to that, but something I look forward to doing.
How will the teachers be supported to get there? Those that aren't comfortable.
You know, one of the biggest things that we have to do is support them through the evaluation process, because it is becoming so, I don't want to say punitive, but it is their livelihood that the evaluation system is changing along with Common Core almost at the same time. And so I think it really does start with the evaluation process and having a very effective teacher evaluation system. It's a lot more time consuming, but as a teacher needing some help and an improvement, it's a huge improvement over what we used to do. You know, if you're a returning teacher, you might just get one evaluation, one visit by the administrator coming into your room one time. And now the new evaluation system is, you know, several different visits by the administrator or other people coming in and giving that teacher feedback and saying, you know, here's what you can be doing better, and moving them towards those teaching techniques that go along with Common Core and the new evaluation process. So I think it really starts there. I also think having knowledge about the Common Core, and you know, as a math teacher just a year and a half ago, you know, I'm very comfortable with the Common Core standards and knowing what they are and how they do fit together with the curriculum. And so I think having knowledge and being able to pass that on to your teachers as a leader is really important too.
So does the leadership get trained? Are they considered the experts in Common Core, or?
Well, I think right now it's happening, you know, it probably varies a lot by school, but I think, you know, if you're going to be an administrator with Common Core as the focus of your curriculum and what your teacher's going to be teaching, you have to be just as knowledgeable or the most knowledgeable about them in your school. And right now, I think as best we can, we are trying to juggle the new evaluation process and how that all works and all the laws that have changed regarding that, which are changing as we speak, in fact, and how that kind of fits in with Common Core, and you know, becoming very knowledgeable about both, because I think they do go together. So, but it does come down to the principals and, you know, even our department chairs at this school. Our department chairs are kind of the experts in the field. They do a lot of the evaluation as well. At an elementary school, let's say Taylor Hicks, there's pretty much just one evaluator. One of the things that can help us too, I think, as a district is, you know, we might even have a district team of evaluators to help support some of those schools that are less able to do, you know, having a team of evaluators, and that could help us here at the high school too. That's something that I think the district is already talking about doing, is having those trained experts that can help the teachers and get these new standards put into place. But we're fortunate here to have some of that already in place, I think. Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. First of all, I want to just tell you that I have a lot of former students who say great things about you when you were a teacher.
Well, thanks.
You were a great teacher. As far as Common Core, my first question is, the Common Core standards are actually more difficult. So what I'm teaching my pre-algebra students, if I could teach to that level at this point, is more difficult than what I'm teaching at algebra level.
Right.
So we have a problem there, and that has not been even approached or talked about at high school.
Yeah, I think, you know, being in the math department, one of the struggles that we've had, and we still do, is that transition period. I think this is the first year, that we don't have 4 different sets of math requirements. Senior, junior, right now we have 2 different math requirements, but that's just it. You know, what do you do with your Algebra 1, 2 students that are, let's say, freshmen, compared to an Algebra 1, 2 student that's a junior, because their testing right now is totally different. The freshmen now, taking those park tests, if they get them put into place, it's a much different ballgame than the student underneath the Ames requirement. And so I think one of the things that we have to do as a school is to be able to manage both of those types of students during this transition period. But obviously, the sooner that we can move towards Common Core and getting our teachers teaching the way that demands, the better. And it definitely is a challenge, because not everybody's so gung-ho about moving to the new standards.
Well, I look forward to that. But my second question is, as far as communication between the high schools and the middle schools, I teach 70 algebra students, and these are your best students, because if they're in algebra in 8th grade, you know, they're very high level. And there was a question earlier this year that came up about credits.
Right.
And it took about 4 weeks to be answered. 3 weeks, I think, to be answered. And somehow there's a disconnect between the high schools and the middle school. I felt like I knew the answer, and then I questioned.
Right.
So, what would you do to facilitate communication between the math department at the high school and the middle school, so we are abreast of all of the situations?
Well, one of the things I think that the district has done this year, and starting last year that we had not really done before, is having district-wide professional development days set aside.
Which is great.
So that's a step in the right direction.
Very much so.
I think, unfortunately, I think math actually does probably as good a job compared to some of the other departments, if you want to call them that, in communicating with the middle schools, but it definitely can be improved. There does have to be a person, you know, and our budget impacts that a little bit too, but there does need to be a person that is that communicator between the two, not only the high school down to the middle schools, but even there's a disconnect a little bit with the middle school, from one middle school to the other one. And I was mentioning earlier that one of the strengths that we have as a district is we're a K-12 district, that some single charter schools, they don't have that luxury to where they can look at a program, you know, K-12. You know, if I'm, let's say, Tri-City Prep, I have kids coming from maybe 4 or 5 different schools feeding me, and so it's kind of a mixed bag on who I'm getting as a student. Whereas at Prescott High School, we have the luxury of, you know, a good chunk of our kids coming all the way from the kindergarten level all the way up to the high school, and we need to do a better job of using that to our benefit.
And
So-
also, I think we all need to do a better job of just exposing how well Prescott High School does in math competitions and
For
things
sure.
like that, because
Across the board, you know.
across the board,
Yeah, academic decathlon and a lot of those things. Those are some of my
So
number
better
one
recruiting.
goals, is to get that information out there. You know, we have 2 Flynn scholars that were announced right before spring break, and we need to get that out there right now. You know, our academic decathlon team just finished 9th in the whole state, and so we need to get that information out there and let the community and the Tri-City area know of what we offer here. Yes.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
I'm Joanne Schofer.
Yes.
I'm president of TSO. You've been involved here forever, so you know the environment you're coming into, you know the community, you know the kids, you know the teachers. But what would your immediate plan be as principal? Like, what would you change that you can't do now, that you could do tomorrow?
Boy, I have to be careful on answering that question. I think one of my
I'm
biggest
not recording it, so.
goals.
I am.
Oh, she is.
You know, as a principal at Prescott High School, one of the things that I really would like to create change in is how our school environment and culture is.
Mhm.
with student morale and teacher morale, and just really raise that up as best I can, and establishing as many relationships as I can, not only with the teachers, but also the students. You know, we are a fairly good-sized school, but we still have a small town, you know, atmosphere and community, and that's even true at the high school. And I think that would be one of my number one goals, is to change the morale of the students and the faculty. Education's a hard job right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much happening.
I understand.
It's just trying to support the teachers and students as best I can through my relationship with them, and empowering them in some of the decision-making that happens.
And based on the heels of that answer,
Okay.
do you feel that you have an open door policy to, let's say, the faculty, staff, and students? Like, are they able to come to you without any?
I think so. I had a student come to me today. I never taught him in my class, but he only knows me as an assistant principal. He came into my office today, and he actually wrote me a little note on a tiny little slip of paper. He said, "I need to speak with you just about an issue." And not only would like to say that I have an open door policy, but a lot of times it takes a lot more time, but oftentimes I'll go to a teacher or go to a student where they are, and not maybe even have them come to me. For some students, it's kind of intimidating.
Right.
And in some cases,
It's usually
even
not a good thing.
embarrassing when you're
Yeah.
leaving the
Right.
principal's office.
Right.
It's not so a lot of times I'll go and I'll meet a student in their classroom, or a teacher in their classroom, and I'll go to them. But yeah, it really is, you know, just an investment in people and that relationship, especially face to face. I know there's
Absolutely.
email and
Right.
there's limitations to that.
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
I don't have a question really, but
Okay.
my daughter benefited so greatly from you as a teacher. Your character greatly influenced her
Well, thanks.
growing up, and it's really exciting for many of us in the community to see you striving for this position. Just want you to know that
Oh, thanks.
a lot of people are excited that you have planted a lot of seeds, and that character continues to follow. So,
Well, thanks. And when I was a wrestling coach, when I was younger back then, I wasn't sure how much impact, you know, just kind of the role that I had, and my two assistant coaches, being more the manager and the person that I have to make the bus reservations and whatnot. So I questioned maybe the value of me as the head coach. Besides all those, you know, if they can't get on the bus, they're not going to go to the meet. But I learned over time that really the head coach and the tone that person sets, or the principal, the leader, it's hugely important all the way down, because it trickles down all the way, you know, to the student level, and how they feel about the school. And so,
and that's why we're so excited, because we know that
Well, thanks. Yeah.
that top position.
it's a lot of
has-
responsibility, I will tell you that.
has great
It's
importance.
a
Yes.
big burden that, you know, I'm willing to take on, but
Right.
very humbling, and lots of responsibility comes with that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a few more questions. Do you foresee expansion of the AP program? Expanding it out to maybe international baccalaureate, or you just sort of?
No, in fact, on my goal sheet, I don't know if you want to see it, but some of this is a little bit unknown to me. That there's, I guess I should hand some of these out.
Oh, right there, expanded and
There
improved
we go.
AP courses. Okay.
Our AP program right now is one of the top notch. I mean, I'll take our AP scores against anybody's globally, and our average scores are extremely high. With that said, though, I think we're limited in some of our AP programs, and one of the first things I would want to do is look at the 301 monies that we have available, and if I could speak freely, I would say I would do whatever I could to encourage teachers to become AP teachers. Right now, we don't have an AP Spanish class, which is baffling to me. I mean, we used to have one. I will tell you that AP, being an AP teacher is very challenging. You have to get audited. The requirements to be a teacher for that are huge. However, the gain that we get, you know, a friend of mine that has 4 kids in the district, and he's trying to decide, well, where do I want to send my students, my kids? His big question is, how does the AP program stack up at Prescott High School?
Well, and as you're aware, that's something in our family that's very important. It's,
Right.
We don't have athletes, I don't think. I think we might have brainiacs.
Okay.
Just one. So it was just, you know, are you expanding where?
I want to do as much as we can to not only expand maybe the offerings that we have, but also getting more awareness by the students.
These are some
that
options.
these are
for-
definitely some options. We had AP Art, and we don't have AP Art. We're doing some things with online. I think we can utilize some of that where maybe we can't necessarily afford to put a physical teacher in there, but we can at least offer it and provide that from an online perspective and give support to those AP students with a teacher on special assignment type of thing. But I really do think we need to return to having as many AP programs as we can, and then I think our ROTC program is a perfect example of how we can even incorporate an IB program as well and attract some of those students.
Good evening, Prescott High School families and community members that have taken the time to come and meet our 3 principal candidates. We will be concluding our evening in about 5 minutes. Again, thank you so very much for coming to meet and greet our principal candidates. It is now time to prepare that very last question so that we can conclude.